Hi, I'm Jason with Litter-Robot, and today we're going to be going through replacing the DFI, that's the drawer full indicator, and the pinch terminals in the Litter-Robot 3. First thing to do is just remove the bonnet, the globe, and the waste drawer. That's going to make working on this a lot easier. So I'm going to do that right now. And just go ahead and set all these aside. And then we're going to make sure to power it down and unplug it. And now we're ready to service the lower base. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up the control panel cover. We have to go ahead and unplug the DFI, and then we're going to seal it back up and flip this over and start disassembling the lower base. So to do this, you just need a standard Phillips head screwdriver, and you're just going to remove all the screws that hold this control panel in place. There'll be 5 total, and once they are all loose, you can pop this panel off, and then you're going to want to push in on one of the buttons to leave the controls right there. So now I have this panel removed, and then we're going to look back here. There's going to be a single 4-pin wire right here. That's the DFI. That's the only one we want to replace or remove. So now that I have that unplugged, there's a little bit of assembly tape in here. We're going to move around that. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the motor here and get this wire free from underneath it. And then we can go ahead and put that motor back down, wires underneath. We'll be back in here later, so if you don't get it perfect right now, that's fine. And then we want to continue freeing up this DFI wire. I'm going to take a pair of needle nose, really any pliers will do. There's a little black clip here that you're going to grab and pull up firmly. And that's going to allow us to push this wire back through the base. Now that I've done that, we're going to reseal this up just with 2 screws. We're going to have to go back in here once we replace the actual DFI. So this is just to let us get it back together. And I'm going to dump these screws out so I don't lose them later. And then we'll go ahead and get the control panel back in there. Like I said, we'll be back in here, so if everything's not perfect, that's okay. We just need to keep it together so we don't have everything falling out. I'm just going to put 2 in, not even all the way. So now that this wire is free down here, we can go ahead and flip the unit over and start disassembling the 2 halves. So for this, you're going to deal with 2 screws here, 2 screws in here, 1 back here, 2 and 2. No particular order. Same Phillips head can remove these. If you have a magnet tip screwdriver, that can be helpful just for getting these in and out. And then don't forget this single back one here. So now with all of those screws out, we can split the 2 halves. So you want to be careful because there is still going to be wires between the 2, so we can't entirely remove it. I recommend just kind of taking this and twisting it away. Being careful not to let these wires get too tight. And now we have access to our DFI system and the pinch terminals in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is start removing the DFI. We've already freed up the wire, so it's just going to be these 4 screws here, and we'll be able to pull out our old DFI system. Same Phillips head that we've used everywhere else. And then these will pull right out. You might have the wire under a clip here. And then this part will be free. You'll see they just kind of slide right out of these brackets. You can set those aside. And then the only two wires left are actually going into my pinch terminals. So I'm going to take my needle nose, come back here, and give them a firm pull. And that'll remove the entire DFI assembly. While I have that out, I'm going to go ahead and take care of the pinch terminals. If you have no issue with them, that don't need to be replaced, but if you've had a false pinch condition or if they look corroded or dirty for any reason, it's a good time to go ahead and replace them. So these two metal brackets here, they're the same metal brackets, so it doesn't matter which one goes in which spot. You're actually just going to take some needle nose, grab them, and kind of pull them straight up and out. And then go ahead and set them aside. So there's my two pinch terminals. And then we have DFI removed, pinch removed, and we can go ahead and start the reassembly. All right, now we're going to go ahead and take our new pinch terminals and install them just like we removed the other ones. So I'm going to start with this. We're going to push it down in there using our needle nose to give us a little bit of help. I'm going to get it under this piece of plastic here, and we want to make sure it's on this side of this piece of plastic. And then our next connector, same thing, slide it down and use my pliers to help. And this will go down, it'll clip into the plastic just like the other one. And then we also need to make sure that this one sits behind the other metal clip. So once these are both in there, the metal clip should be touching, and you should be able to apply pressure here to make them separate. That's what creates the pinch contact. So you'll know it's right when this pushes that contact out of the way and disconnects them. So now that the pinch is back in there, we can install the rest of the DFI system. And we have new brackets, new circuit boards, everything you need to reinstall it. It also comes with additional screws. You can reuse your old ones or use the new ones. And we're going to reinstall this just as we removed it. Make sure none of the wires are twisted up. This gray cable should be relatively flat. There should be no twist in it. Put it like this. You'll note the boards want to slide out this way, and that's the way we want to push them in here, because this part of the unit's going to keep those boards from coming out. If I do it the other way, these boards can come out and the system's not going to work correctly. So we'll go ahead and pop these on here, and then get that under the clip there, and then take some of our old screws and put them in. And one nice thing here is every screw we've taken out from the top of the unit to the bottom, they've all been the same screw. So don't worry about lengths or sizes. They're all the same ones. You can use them interchangeably from all the parts we've removed today. And then our two pinch contacts here, it doesn't matter which one goes to which. You just got to make sure to get them on these back tabs that you reinstalled. So I'm going to use my pliers to give me a hand. And I'm going to put my finger behind it. Actually, let's see if we can get it started. And I'm going to support it back here so I don't push them back out. And then use my pliers just to make sure they seat nicely. And we'll do the same thing on the other one. Just a standard contact, slides right on. They're nice and tight to make sure we don't have a bad connection there. And then make sure to double check your terminals. You don't want to misseat them from pushing on them. That can happen a lot, and all that looks good. So DFI is installed, pinch is installed. We're going to go ahead and take that 4 wire from earlier, pass it back through where all these wires are coming out. And then one other bit we recommend for prolonging the life of the pinch terminals, if you have petroleum jelly or any dielectric grease at home, you can take a little bit of that and just kind of smudge it on there. That helps reduce corrosion. These are plated terminals, but in the environment they're in, just a little bit of petroleum jelly or dielectric grease can help keep that from going bad again. So this is all set. We can go ahead and put the other half back on and start reassembly. With the DFI reinstalled in our new pinch terminals, we can go ahead and reassemble the unit. So I'm going to take the lower base here and place it back on top. Remember, we have wires connected between them, so be careful as you do this. And this will just twist over, and it should want to just seat naturally. You can double check along these seams, make sure everything is lined up. And once it is, we can go ahead and place all our fasteners back in. So again, these are all the same. So pull from your giant pile of screws and go ahead and reinstall them. There's no true order to this, so whatever is comfortable and convenient. And you want to snug them up, but again, you're screwing into plastic, so don't try to over crank them or you'll strip out the holes. And then of course, my favorite one to forget about is this single one back here. So now our unit is back together. We can flip it over, and we're going to go back into our control panel and plug in that wire for the DFI system. So however many screws you put back in here, take them back out. Pull this cover off. Careful to leave the electronic panel right there. With our control panel cover removed, we can go ahead and start working on plugging our DFI back in. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull the motor out. Make sure to grab its 2 rubber isolators with it and just kind of set it aside for now. And then we'll take our DFI cable and we want to pull it, not too hard, but make it taut. And we can seat it over there. And we want to take our clip from earlier, and then I'm going to put it with my needle nose, and we're just going to push it back down into this hole, and that's going to keep our wires in place there. So next, we just need to make sure all of these wires sit down in this channel. We want it to sit under the motor, and then we can take the motor and its 2 wires, place it underneath, and also make sure that those get down into that channel. And this can be a little tricky to get them all lined up, but once it's done, this should seat clean, smooth up against here. This pinion shouldn't be touching any plastic or wires. You want to keep making sure that these wires are out of the way of this assembly. Otherwise, when you start to cycle, these wires can get caught and you'll start yanking them out and you'll have all sorts of errors. So with that done there, motor is seated, we can go ahead and re-plug in this cable. So it can only go in one way, so if you feel like you're forcing too hard, flip it around the other way and put it in to this 4-pin connector here. Some of your boards will have a 4-pin connector back here. Do not plug it into that one, it will not work. Make sure it's this one here against the flat edge. Once that's done, we can rotate this back into place here double check all those connectors are still seated. It's easy for them to get loose while you're doing this work. And then we can take our control panel cover, press this guy back up in here so that our buttons show through. And then we'll go ahead and seat this back down. You might have to jiggle it and wiggle it a little bit, but it will sit flush. And then we can replace all 5 of these screws. If you're having a hard time or you feel like you really need to push hard on this to get it to seat smooth, then there's probably something out of alignment and you'll want to open that back up and take a look. So this is all back together. Now we can start putting the Litter-Robot back together, plug it in, and test to see if we've solved our DFI or pinch issues. So I'm gonna place the globe back in, just as I always would, make sure it seats. We'll take the bonnet, make sure to have this on. We can't test the unit without the bonnet installed, otherwise we'll just have a bonnet error and we can't see whether or not we fixed our DFI and pinch. Now that it's together, you can put the waste drawer in at this time or wait till you get it back down in for your cats. I'm gonna plug it in. And then we'll power it on. And then we'll go ahead and let it complete a cycle. You should be able to let it cycle all the way to dump, all the way back home, and then we should have a solid blue ready light. If you don't have a solid blue ready light, you may have had a problem with your installation, and you're gonna wanna look at which color code you had to see whether or not it's pinch DFI, or it's possible that one of our other cables on the control panel became unplugged and we need to address that. If you get back to a blue ready light status, you're good to go and you're ready to put your Litter-Robot 3 back into service.